Hi, welcome to your checkup. We are the patient education podcast where we bring conversation from the doctor's office to your ears. On this podcast, we try to bring medicine closer to its patients. I'm Ed Dulesky, a family medicine doctor in the Philadelphia area.
And I'm Nicole Rufo. I'm a nurse.
And we are so excited you were able to join us here again today. So before we get into the banter today, we are going to do episode 2 of 2. If you joined us last week, I portended a 3-episode miniseries on the food pyramid. We looked into it. Turns out after today's episode, there isn't a whole lot more to talk about.
Yeah, there's only so much you can say.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that today, and we'll have something new and exciting for you next week. Still have to figure out exactly what the calendar will show. We're gonna probably record it sometime differently than Sunday, I would argue, because we're gonna be busy next weekend.
Yeah, we are. Got
my
big
Super
plans.
Bowl. But we'll leave that for later. We had a nice experience yesterday. Had a nice my first time. Was your first time?
It was, I think, yeah.
Having Peking duck. If anyone listening to this also follows me on Instagram, I made a nice little documentation of the night. And it was delicious. You had a little taste. Of course, we went with the usual suspects. Karthik, Mike, Pri. You were so delightful to join us. Sam was celebrating her birthday otherwise. So happy birthday, Sam. And, we got a smorgasbord. Karthik had looked at the menu for apparently nightly for a week and ordered. You have to let them know ahead of time that the duck is.
Didn't you guys pick the place like 72 hours before we went?
This part confuses me too, because maybe he looked at multiple menus.
Maybe he was perusing
in tandem.
Yeah.
But that did confuse me because it seemed like it was up for debate up until the last moment, or like 3 days beforehand, which would leave 4 days unaccounted for. Anyway, the Peking duck, which the carving of was announced with a gong, tasted like bacon, kind of.
It did, yeah.
I thought it was great. It was delicious.
Yeah, it was good. It's a little dark and fatty for me, I think.
Yeah, it's not a meal that I would argue, us talking about food today, it's not one that's a staple, but...
Mm-hmm. No, it was fun. It was good.
But it was fun. They had a lazy Susan in the middle of the table that you can spin around and like pass things, which was very nice because you can there's some sauce, some hoisin sauce?
Hoisin, I think.
Hoisin.
I'm pretty sure.
The H is silent.
I don't think there's an H. Is there? Look it up real quick.
Like an herb?
No, I think there just isn't an H.
No, we got to let this one ride. There can't be any. We can't get clarification on this.
Why not?
Well, maybe we could.
Oh, wait. There is an H.
Thank you. So it is like herb.
Oops.
What other words are there with silent H's?
Herb.
Horticulture.
Hors d'oeuvres.
Hors d'oeuvres. Yeah. Good one. Good pick.
That's all I got right now.
Me too. And we had a great day today. Can you tell us, they've heard me talk and I'm going to talk a lot more. Can you tell us about what we did today?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We had a whole day. It was the first really nice day of the end of winter / beginning of spring in Philly. And I had a whole morning before you even got up. I had a grocery order delivered, prepped some food for the week, made Ollie some chicken and carrots.
He's been loving
that.
Got
some things ready for dinner tomorrow, clean out the fridge a bit. And then we went on a nice run down to the Schuylkill, ran the Schuylkill River Trail for a while, got a nice little iced latte treat on the way back.
Oops.
And then we went to the gym.
We did.
We took Ollie for a nice long W. We're going to have to get a stroller out soon. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we can spend more time with him outside. He's fine. He moves great, but you know, I
His
think
little legs get tired, and we like to walk far, so
we do.
plop him in a stroller, and he smiles away and stares at everyone.
He does. Everyone pities him because they think something's wrong, and nothing is wrong. I mean, we got it when he was recovering, of course, but no, he's just, I mean, when it's a little warmer out, like it was in the 60s today, we're getting his endurance back up.
Listen, if you can push a full-grown child in a stroller, you can push a dog,
Yeah.
The kid's legs get tired. The dog's legs get tired.
Nona's legs get tired.
The best thing about it is that a dog can't whine about it.
That's a good point. No, he loves it.
Yeah.
And tonight I'm making salmon. I've been into this like garlic caper salmon bit with boiling the water and then putting it on the salmon so that the shrimp, the skin comes off. So that's looking forward to that. And then what are you making tomorrow?
What am I making tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow I kept seeing these recipes for like white chicken enchiladas that are very much going to be like a white person version of it. But they looked good. So we'll see how that turned out. I made the chicken for it this morning and like shredded it so that I can put it all together tomorrow.
Awesome. And you had an idea for Tuesday too, which I'm one lucky man.
Oh yeah. I'm going to make, well, we'll see how this turns out. Like pizza, but the crust is made out of ground chicken.
Yeah, I'm so curious how this is going to come out.
I think it's good. I think my mom recently told us that she made it and then my dad and Eric both liked it and couldn't tell a difference. So like if they didn't complain about it, then it's probably good.
Good point. Yeah, and daylight saving. Now we're doing this today on what is a 23-hour day. So is daylight savings starting or ending?
I don't know.
I mean, neither. All I know is
probably starting because then there's more daylight.
Daylight savings. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. I'm always perpetually accused of making a bigger deal out of this than is necessary.
I'm really proud of you.
Today is a hard one.
All day you could have been like, it's 6 o'clock, but really it's 5 o'clock. I actually forgot about it this morning. And when I looked at the clock when I woke up, it was like 7:06. And I was like, wow, I slept until 7 o'clock. Oh my gosh. I'm so well rested. And then I remembered that I was just waking up at my normal time.
You are. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to choose to be positive, and I'm looking forward to more light at the end of the day. That's going to be great. I think everyone likes that.
Yeah.
Except it's dark out in the morning. All right. Well,
it won't be like that forever.
No, not forever, certainly. And then it's going to be very warm this upcoming week, which we're looking forward to. But I'm going to be inside quite a bit during it. So
you are.
Maybe I'll wear a short sleeve shirt or something. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, why don't we get started then? Should we dive in? So what are we going to talk about today, Nick?
So today we're talking about what these new dietary guidelines are actually saying.
Yeah, so last episode we talked about the history of the dietary guidelines for Americans and how they started in 1980, who writes them and why they matter, far beyond just general advice. But because these guidelines don't just influence individuals, they tend to shape federal nutrition programs, school lunches, and even military rations. And so today we're doing something a little different. Instead of debating headlines about the guidelines.
Oh, Wally.
So today we're just going to walk through what they actually say. And this sounds obvious, but honestly, most of the time when people argue about the dietary guidelines, they are arguing someone's interpretation of them, not the document itself. So today we're breaking down the core recommendations.
Okay, so the core recommendations on our new food pyramid are saturated fat, added sugar, protein sources, whole grains, alcohol, and we also now have ultra-processed foods.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the evidence behind each one and take a careful look at what the science actually says. So we're going to talk about how there are dietary patterns versus individual nutrients. One of the first things the guidelines emphasize, and this has been increasingly clear over the past couple decades, is that health outcomes are linked to overall dietary patterns, not single nutrients. For a long time, nutrition science focused heavily on individual nutrients, fat, cholesterol, carbohydrates. But now the emphasis is more on the combination of foods people eat over time. So the pattern recommended in the guidelines generally includes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean proteins, dairy or fortified alternatives, nuts, seeds, and oils, and limits on added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. And if any of that sounds familiar, it's because it looks a lot like the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet, which we have talked about previously. So it's not radical, it's more of a risk reduction template. So let's go through different segments of this. So the first one we're going to start off with is saturated fat. This one tends to generate a fair amount of debate, and the guidelines recommend saturated fat make up less than 10% of calories. And that recommendation has been around for a while, and the reasoning is largely based on the relationship between saturated fat intake and LDL cholesterol levels. And this is important because LDL cholesterol plays a causal role in atherosclerosis. This is plaque formation in arteries. So the argument goes, saturated fat raises LDL, higher LDL increases cardiovascular risk, therefore reducing saturated fat lowers risk. But there's nuance to this, and it comes in when we look at actual foods, not just the nutrient itself. For example, some foods contain saturated fat like yogurt or cheese, and they don't consistently show increased risk of cardiovascular disease in observational studies. Now, if you compare that to processed meats, these are more strongly associated with negative health outcomes. So one of the debates in time is whether a single percentage cap captures that nuance. And the answer is probably not perfectly. So public health guidelines often choose simplicity over complexity because the goal is population level messaging. One other piece on saturated fat is that in the pictogram that they offered for the new food pyramid, if you will, they put a lot of like red beefy meat at the top. And in the words, they said less than 10% saturated fat. And so the picture is probably what people are going to remember because I think fewer people will read the 10-page like consumer, average person facing document, and even fewer people will read the scientific information. But if one looks at that and says, oh, look, big red beefy meat at the top, and then reads the nuance of have less than 10% saturated fat in your diet, there is a little dissonance there that is an opportunity for some confusion. But that's not so much of what we're trying to cover today, but that was just a little discourse that I've seen that I wanted to include here. Sweetie, are you able to take us through a little walkthrough about the joys and devils of added sugar?
Ah, yes. Let's talk about sugar. The joys are that it makes your food taste really good. And everyone's also probably addicted to it.
Yeah.
Which is also a devil.
Good pivot there.
So the guidelines recommend keeping added sugars below 10% of your daily calories. And the added sugar evidence is actually pretty consistent when it's compared to the whole saturated fat debacle. We all know that high intake of added sugar is linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and cardiovascular disease. So we're going to loop back to the sugar-sweetened beverages as an example. It's one of the clearest dietary contributors to excess calorie intake, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about it again. We'll
There
mention it again.
Literally so many people. Like now that I've been hunting, I find it all the time. It's kind of alarming.
It really is.
Even today. Like in today's world.
Oh.
Like growing up, like we had soda, and then there was like some transition where like my mom stopped bringing it in the house and we stopped having it.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's like 15, 20 years ago. Like this is today, and we know all of this stuff now. Anyway, you were saying.
Oh, the sugar-sweetened beverages, and that you can easily drink hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calories worth of a sugar-sweetened beveragino, and it does absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah.
It does not make you full. It does not make you satiated. It is honestly just like a quick hit of sugar that tastes good, but it does absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah.
It actually does all bad things for you.
It's true. Oh, yeah. Well, and we, in one of our tasty tips, that was where we talked about this. We talked about that it was twice related to a bad outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was linked to colon cancer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we said that was one of the like early causes of increased rising rates that they had in observational studies. Well, that it was linked to. Careful to use the word cause.
Yeah. Just drink water.
Just drink water. Alternative, I guess, like I would roll over and say that like one of the probiotic, like newly branded sodas.
Yeah, like the Poppy or the Olipop.
Like those are probably better.
Those are actually pretty good.
They're tasty. They're like also 25 calories ish. Mm-hmm. So you're not drinking hundreds, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like probably, look, if you got like a can, I would venture a guess that like a can of Coke is probably like 120 calories.
Okay. A standard 12-ounce can of Coca-Cola, so like regular Coke, is 140 calories and 39 grams of sugar.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And I feel like like in my own head, and I feel like we really don't have a lot of added sugar ever or on like a daily basis. I mean, we got like iced lattes today, and that was like a special treat, and I like couldn't even finish my whole one.
Yeah.
But like I feel like when I'm looking at things like nutrition labels of things, if it has 10 or more grams of sugar, I like won't eat it or drink it.
Yeah.
Typically. I feel like once you get into the double digits, that's like a lot.
Especially for a serving. And like people normally eat more than one serving of things.
So now let's do Poppy. Okay, so there are different flavors. So the calories and everything varies a little bit. But in one 12-ounce can of Poppy, the calories range from 20 to 30. Added sugar ranges from 3 to 4 grams. So
much better.
A lot less. And there's also like a little bit of fiber in there too.
So this is a lot better of an option. Yeah. We don't sell them. We gave you 2 brands to go look for. We've tried them both. We like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get them as a treat sometimes.
But again, we use them as a treat. We're water. We drink water. I would say like, iced tea without sweetener is probably fine too as an alternative. I think some people would be duped into thinking like regular Gatorade is also fine. Gatorade was designed for like performance athletes in mind to like give them sustenance back.
We could do a whole episode. I think I bring this up that we should do a whole episode on this and like the electrolyte craze.
We totally can.
And how you like don't need it if you're like a regular person.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right.
Going for like kidneys. A 3-mile run because your kidneys work.
Yeah. I'm in. We should do it. And then maybe we can bring up the sugar-sweetened beveraginos again because
we love talking about them.
We do. Well, I've found new like obesity podcasts for me to listen to, and they were talking about pediatric obesity and like directly linking it to sugar-sweetened beverages.
I would like to talk about pediatric obesity.
You would?
Yeah.
Oh, great. We can prep that. So then let's continue on then. Thank you so much. So we're going to whole grains. The guidelines recommend that at least half of grain intake be from whole grains. It's based largely on long-term cohort studies where they take people and they watch them going forward, and they show associations between whole grain intake and lower cardiovascular risk. That's simple. Critics would point out that these are observational studies, which is true and perhaps not ideal in terms of evidence, but it's the evidence that we might have. And people who eat more whole grains also tend to exercise more, smoke less, and have a higher socioeconomic status. But when researchers adjust for those variables, the associations often still hold. And so whole grains are one of the main sources of dietary fiber, which most Americans don't consume enough of, which we kind of addressed here a little bit with the poppies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even us, we like do fiber supplements because I'm not sure that on an average day we eat enough to claim like.
Yeah, I definitely have more fiber than you do.
You definitely do. Yes. So the recommendation isn't necessarily grains are magical. It's more that whole grains tend to be more nutrient dense and fiber rich compared with refined grains. So that's that. I don't know how many whole grains we actually, if we were to assess. We don't have a lot of carbs.
We don't have a lot of
that we routinely eat.
grains.
No.
I feel like. You know?
I look at that. Yeah, I'm like, when does one eat a grain in this household? A pretzel.
We do have a thing for pretzels. I don't know, oatmeal? Is oatmeal a grain? I feel like I just sounded dumb. Yeah, we don't really eat like bread
I know.
regularly.
Yeah, we had like grilled cheese, and I was like, wow, there's bread in the house.
Yeah.
C'est la vie. So then we're talking about protein. Another theme in the guidelines is protein variety. They encourage people to get protein from multiple sources: seafood, poultry, beans and legumes.
We love legumes.
Nuts and seeds, eggs, and lean meats. And they also recommend limiting processed meats, which have stronger links to colorectal cancer, here we go, and cardiovascular disease. I feel like this is like 3 weeks in a row we've mentioned colorectal cancer. So this doesn't mean eliminating red meat entirely, although you could reasonably choose to do that, but it does encourage moderation and diversity of protein sources. Now on to the best part is ultra-processed foods. We have a whole episode on ultra-processed foods that you would be delighted to listen to, and you can easily find. Mm-hmm. But one interesting shift in recent years is the growing conversation about ultra-processed foods when it comes to these guidelines. These are foods that undergo multiple industrial processing steps and often contain additives, flavor enhancers, and refined ingredients. There's increasing evidence that we've previously covered that diets in high ultra-processed foods are associated with things like obesity, metabolic disease, and higher caloric intake, even when controlled for other things. That was a cool study that we looked at when they had people in a hospital wing and they gave them whatever food they were able to eat and whatever they wanted, and the same amounts. Somehow they controlled for it, and the people with the ultra processed food just ate more calories than the other people, which I thought was very interesting. So guidelines don't explicitly center ultra processed foods in their recommendations. Instead, they focus on nutrient targets like sugar, sodium, and saturated fat. And some critics would argue that they could have been more clear on this issue, but we'll say it here. The processing of food and ultra processed foods are something that you should probably limit. So then the next one is about alcohol. They cover alcohol guidance, and it's evolved slightly. It's still vague, but the guidelines still define moderate drinking limits. But the messaging increasingly acknowledges that alcohol is not necessary for health. And some research that we've talked about, even in recent weeks, has suggested that even moderate consumption can carry certain risks. So the tone overall has shifted from moderate drinking may have benefits towards a more cautious framing. They actually say in there that no amount of alcohol is healthy, which I think is good to say out loud, because there are previous studies or arguments out there, not even studies, that would say a glass of wine is good for cardiovascular health. And I don't know, between learning a couple extra things, like I think everyone pretty much knows that alcohol isn't healthy. But recently, in broad themes, I've even learned that alcohol affects 2 nights of sleep whenever people drink. So the night that after, like the night of the drinking and the next night. If you're someone who drinks every other day, then that means that every night of your week is somehow affected by alcohol. We've also recently reviewed evidence that alcohol can increase the risk of colorectal cancer, not to mention that it's addictive and also a huge source of empty calories. Yeah, I've been really anti-alcohol on this podcast recently. Unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been happening. Just from like a health standpoint. So some would argue that the guidelines look familiar. I would be one of them. And you know, they lauded in their preamble that they like changed the world and they were going to fix America's food problem with these guidelines. And they are very similar to the ones in 2020. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh my God, Trump's America and Trump's food pyramid is going to be the next best thing. It's practically the same. So there's that. I think there's a lot of self-patting on the back there. But regardless, there's some decent stuff in here, which is tough in this environment to like where half of the stuff that could be said or a third of it can be like reasonable. And then the other stuff intermixed is absolute garbage. And it's tough for the average person to pick out what to listen to.
The garbage.
Yes, it's tough. Yeah, like when RFK gets on there and he's like, oh, yeah, people shouldn't be drinking so much sugar.
Valid.
Sure, that's valid. He's also an idiot, but
he's also not a doctor, if we didn't already know.
Also not a doctor if you're listening to this.
Remind everyone of that.
I feel like someone listening to this would probably already know that, though.
I hope so.
So please remember that these guidelines are designed for population health, not individualized optimization of your like nutrition. They are designed to reduce risk across hundreds of millions of people with very different lifestyles and health conditions. So that's very different from designing a specific diet for a specific individual. That's why they literally make dietitians. So today we looked at what the dietary guidelines actually recommend and the evidence behind those recommendations. And I think we found ourselves a couple topics to spark up conversation about what we're interested in talking about. Mm-hmm. And while some aspects are debated, many of the core themes are relatively consistent with current research. But as we go across these 2 episodes, one thing we want to really point out is that this system, the food system and food in general, is incredibly complex. It is an intersection of economics and culture and health, and it is very complicated. So basically, do the best you can. Any last thoughts, Nikki?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you for coming back to another episode of Your Checkup. Hopefully, you were able to learn something for yourself, a loved one, or
a neighbor.
You can find us on Threads. You can send us an email at yourcheckuppod@gmail.com. And most importantly, stay healthy, my friends. Until next time, I'm Ed Dulesky.
I'm Nicole Rufo.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
This information may provide a brief overview of diagnosis, treatment, and medications. It's not exhaustive and is a tool to help you understand potential options about your health. It doesn't cover all details about conditions, treatments, or medications for a specific person. This is not medical advice or an attempt to substitute medical advice. You should contact a healthcare provider for personalized guidance based on your unique circumstances. We explicitly disclaim any liability relating to the information given or its use. This content doesn't endorse any treatments or medications for a specific patient. Always talk to your healthcare provider for a complete information tailored to you. In short, I'm not your doctor.
I am not your nurse.
And make sure you go get your own checkup with your own personal doctor.